And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight down to SC off. Bring in SC off. Off. It's orange!
45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? We don't need any more of these.
Good morning. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is ready to try once again to launch the KF-02 mission that includes 24 internet satellites for Project Kuiper. And as always, this is not your ordinary Kuiper launch. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this morning's activities and hopefully launch. But I am, of course, not alone on this stream. Joining me for commentary is Alex. How's it going, Alex?
It's going great. Hopefully, second attempt goes a lot better than the first one.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that ties into some of the interesting facts with this mission. Also joining us from the field, we have Max Evans. Max, how are you doing?
Good morning, everybody. And it is actually a wonderful morning here at the Kennedy Space Center looking over to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Unlike the previous two mornings, because we've had some pretty sour weather in the area, spoiling all the fun. So looks to not be the case this morning, but of course, I don't want to jinx it.
Let's hope not. And also out in the field is D Wise. Good morning, D.
Good morning. Yeah, it is a truly beautiful morning here, and it is a great day for a launch.
Let's hope we get that coming up in 57 minutes and 15 seconds. And once we do see it, it will be produced and popped up on the screen and made all fancy and pretty by Carson, who's operating this morning. Reminder, if you have questions throughout the stream, you can tag us at NASASpaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. But let's get things started off here. Alex, can you kind of talk us through the Kuiper launch and how that differs a bit from what we're used to with these Starlink launches, let's say?
Yeah, so today SpaceX will be attempting to launch a Falcon 9 carrying 24 Kuiper satellites for Amazon. These satellites are somewhat just like Starlink in the sense that they provide satellite internet to people on the ground. If you have the right terminal, then you get that service. Now, the main difference, of course, is it's a different satellite. It's a different configuration, the way that they are attached to Falcon 9, but also the way that they are launched. So with Starlink, SpaceX tries to deploy, because it's their own satellites, right? So they try to deploy them as slow as they can while still being high enough that, they are not dragged down because of the atmosphere, essentially. Because they have their own thrusters, right? But they are too weak, and if you go down enough, then the atmospheric drag might actually pull you all the way down. In the case of the Kuiper satellites, though, they are going to be deployed a lot higher than Starlinks. Usually the Starlinks are deployed a little bit under 300 kilometers. These ones are going to be going to 465 kilometers in altitude in an orbit that it's approximately 51.9 degrees inclined with respect to the equator. So the flight profile for today, though, will be a bit similar, though, in the sense that even though the target orbit will be different than Starlink, we will see very similar profile as we see with Starlink, in the sense that the booster will be going northeast, just like we've seen in recent Group 10 missions of Starlink, right? It's going to go and land downrange on a drone ship. For this one, it will be on a short of Gravitas. Then the second stage will do 2 burns. A first one to enter a parking orbit around Earth, and then a second one to sort of circularize the orbit and go into that 465 kilometer orbit around Earth. And so once that is complete, the 24 satellites will be deployed, and they'll be able to raise their orbits up to operational orbit, which is approximately 590 kilometers for this one. So other than the orbit target that is being targeted for this one, for Falcon 9, it's going to be very similar to a Starlink, where it's going to be, drone ship landing for the booster, 2 burns for the second stage, and then deployment of the satellites. But of course, this is the 4th operational Kuiper mission, so it's already getting a bit routine, if you will, and also the second on Falcon, which is why it is called KF-02. That is essentially Kuiper Falcon 2. So the second launch of Kuiper satellites on Falcon 9.
Yeah, and this is a particularly interesting booster that is going to be flying these Kuiper satellites. Max, can you talk a little bit about the history of this booster?
You mean the lack thereof? Because it is a brand new booster, as we have seen already before with the first Kuiper mission. But today is booster B1091, and the reason why B1091, I guess for us, has been highly anticipated and sought after is it was designed initially to be a Falcon Heavy center core, and is the first Falcon Heavy center core to be converted into to fly in a single stick Falcon 9 configuration. We have seen that only with Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy side cores, because there are key structural differences between the side cores and the center core with the thickness of the tanks, and of course the mounts on the interstage or the white interstage for the Falcon Heavy, and the lower mounting points on just around the thrust puck portion of the booster, of course, to mount to the side boosters. And those are all in place, of course, to take the loads of both side boosters and the thrust that they produce in flight. So rather rare to see. I say it's rare because it's the first one we've seen. And by nature, because of all of those structural changes, this booster is heavier compared to the normal Falcon 9 first stages. But they are going to fly this for a handful of missions, I believe, at least in a single stick configuration, while they wait for the next Falcon Heavy payload customer to be ready, hopefully by the end of this year. So, and I think there's something in the contracts with Kuiper that stipulates they have to use a brand new booster every time. I'm not quite sure why, but that was the case for the first mission, and likely going to be the case for the next one after this as well, whenever that ends up flying. But about 8.5 minutes into flight, this booster will be meeting the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas stationed about 600 kilometers downrange, and also supporting in fairing recovery today is Doug. So kind of business as usual for SpaceX, but it is also a first for the company and for the team. So, but it is rather unique to see a Falcon Heavy center core out there because of how it looks. I mean, you can probably see it on our own cameras, but definitely on the tweet that we have up in frame, there is a distinct lack of Falcon 9 or SpaceX logos on the side of the tank structure that we otherwise see with Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy center or side cores, I should say. So, it's going to be unique seeing this one come back into Port Canaveral after its first landing. Hopefully a good one.
Yeah, this is going to be quite the sight to see. And yes, it is so strange without the logos and stuff, because normally you can't see it because it's blocked by the 2 side cores. It's quite bizarre looking, but it still functions. And that's one of those where forever ago, whenever anyone asked, what about using a center core as a single stick, would always be nope, because it's so modified and this and that. And here comes John Edwards saying, yeah, we'll do it a handful of times before being reconfigured and flying as a Falcon Heavy. Just SpaceX things.
Honestly, I'm genuinely curious what the performance margin differences are between this booster and, I guess, quote unquote, normal Falcon 9 first stage. I'm genuinely curious. And this is also kind of weird to see Griffins on a Falcon Heavy center core, even though it's flying single stick, because ever since Falcon Heavy resumed flight operations in late 2022, they have been discarding the center core. So it's a rather unique sight. And also, obviously, it is wearing the usual black Falcon 9 interstage compared to what you see now on screen with the white interstage that was so prominent with Falcon 9 up through Block 4. And then, of course, we had all the black accents with the interstage and the grid fins and the the thrust structure down below with the Block 5. So it is a rather unique looking booster, and it is going to have quite the story to tell, hopefully, over the next handful of flights, or maybe more. I'm not quite sure what SpaceX has planned for it, but I'm genuinely curious what the performance margins are by comparison to others.
You can see here in this shot, by the way, why the Falcon Heavy center core doesn't have any logos on it, right? Apart from the interstage, of course, but the tanks, they don't have any logos on them because they are blocked by the side boosters. And so you wouldn't be able to see any logos, right? Unless you would put them on top of the raceways, and that will look weird. It doesn't look great, which is also why the side boosters only have logos on one side. The other side is also clean, because that side will be facing inwards and you will not see that, right? And so they only have one SpaceX logo. They do not have any Falcon 9 logos. And of course, the center core of Falcon Heavy does not have any Falcon 9 logo or any SpaceX logo. The interstage does have the Falcon Heavy logo and the US flag, but the interstage is specially made for Falcon Heavy because it also has to, as you can see there, you have those attachment points for the side boosters. So it's not only the tankage that needs reinforcement, but also the interstage. So the interstage on Falcon Heavy is also reinforced and specially made for Falcon Heavy. Here on the right-hand side, on Falcon 9 configuration, it does not have that interstage. It just has a regular Falcon 9. Thankfully, both are connected and bolted the same way, so it doesn't need any special modifications or anything. Just bolt a different thing. It's that easy.
Yeah, it's like Legos. Kind of just swap out the kind of piece, but they all have the little attachment there. So also interesting about this launch, not only is it a new booster, but this is getting towards record territory again with the SpaceX's launch cadence, as this flight will mark the 100th flight of the year if you include the Starship launches so far. So that's the third this month, the 513th Falcon 9 orbital flight. These stats, Alex, it's just unbelievable the pace that they're at. I mean,
Yeah, I
do you
mean,
think we'll hit the what was the goal again for this year? Do you think they'll hit it at this rate?
yeah, so they have 170 launches of Falcon 9 by the end of the year. That's their goal. Right now, they are on track for more than 160. And that is, of course, assuming that they keep up the same cadence. That assumption could be wrong in either way, right? Either on the good side or the bad side. The good side will be, well, if they keep the same cadence, do you really think they're going to keep the same cadence? Maybe they are going to try and push a little bit more, even just, squeezing another launch or two every month, for example. That will go a long way to get the 170 launches this year. But then it could also happen the other way, just as we're seeing recently. Either the weather, vehicle issues or something could delay even one launch by 1 or 2 days. That's already quite a significant delay in terms of how many launches they will need. Because you got to think about this. 170, it's more or less half of 365, which is the entirety of like the number of days in a year, which means you roughly need to launch every 2 days. If a mission delays by 1 or 2 days, you're talking about another launch or two that you are pushing out, essentially. So, for example, this mission was supposed to happen on Thursday, but here we are on Saturday, and it still hasn't launched, which means those 2 days could have been another launch, right? So these kinds of things are the stuff that they'll probably have to juggle around and have to essentially try to work around and be able to hit that 170 launch goal. Of course, always with safety in mind. We've seen them always, being like super duper paranoid, essentially, about, if something does not look great, they stand down, they delay for as long as they need to fix any issues or wait for better weather and things like that. But they always give it a try at the very least, which is what's important.
Give it the old college try, as they say. Yep. We'll see what they end up hitting. And of course, I know we've speculated about that a bunch on flame trenches and things like that. So we'll see what the final number ends up being. But then again, it is only August. There's still plenty of launches to come. Here's one from Mechazilla, and Max, I'll throw this one to you. They're asking, how will Falcon Heavy side booster landings work now with landing zone 1 being, well, no longer theirs? Would they use a drone ship, or what's the plans for the future for landings back on land?
So they are actually planning on building brand new landing zones both over at Space Launch Complex 40, which is on screen now, and also I don't think there's two, but at least one landing zone also at LC-39A. So they may have to split the boosters up if they want to recover side cores on land. But there is, of course, also the theoretical landing of double drone ships out in the ocean, which we still have yet to see, but is kind of wildly impractical when that takes up pretty much their drone ship usage for at least a week, especially for how far downrange they will have to be, and they can't launch anything that is not RTLS in the meantime, because obviously the drone ships are not available in that time. But they are building brand new landing zones over at 39A and Slick 40, and we presume that is what they're going to be using. It would be interesting. God, it is early in the morning. Forgive me. It will be interesting to see if they build one or two zones over at 39A to keep the boosters together, but I can also just see them building one at each pad and then just splitting the boosters up. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what they do. For now, for single sticks, they at least still have LZ2, but a reminder, that lease is going to be ending shortly as well. So for now, it's going to be LZ2 alone. And interestingly, you could see there a tale of two cameras. We have the Cape cameras, which are down closer to the port, where it looks like it's raining. And then Max, weather-wise, what's it looking like?
I'm not gonna lie, I just had a mini heart attack because I thought there's next to no clouds above us here at the press site, but that is of course many miles south of us, just south of Port Canaveral. But the weather forecast, at least from the 45th Weather Squadron, was predicting actually a 60% chance of weather violations this morning in the almost 30-minute launch window. Although I think SpaceX's most recent tweet confirmed, or at least said that they were forecasting a 35% chance of good weather, which in this case on screen is a 40% chance. So, which is honestly ironic because on the previous couple of days, the weather forecast was I think 80% on Thursday, and yesterday was around, I want to say it was around 50 or 60% favorable. And of course, today it's 60% unfavorable. And the weather is the best this morning, at least at this point, than it has been really all week, because it has been a pretty crummy week in terms of weather and rainfall and storms. But we are at that time of year where hurricane season is going to be heating up here in the next couple of months, and weather in the atmosphere around here is going to be just a lot more unstable. So crunch time when it comes to weather, and but we are certainly thankful to see plenty of clear skies, at least over us here at the press site.
Yeah, and while the weather has been iffy, of course, we had the attempt that didn't go off on Thursday. That wasn't the main reason that we're aware of for the stand down. D, what do we know about the last launch attempt?
Yeah, so the last launch attempt, like you said, we were thinking, oh, clearly this is weather because we were in a phase 2 for such a long time. Then they were just in a phase 1, but they actually stood down for additional vehicle checkouts, which we sort of saw like this is not uncommon when it's a first flight booster that they'll notice something, they'll want to spend a bit of extra time on it, and that's one of the benefits of them reusing these boosters as much as they do. So as we're looking to they delayed one day until Friday, and so we were keeping a close eye on that timing wise, and then they didn't have Falcon vertical ahead of the window yesterday. So it seemed like they just needed a bit more time to work on the vehicle, and now they are going for it today.
Yes, so it's one of those where with the weather, you would think it would be one way, and actually no, it turns out it's not. It's just rocket issues. But then again, it feels like we've seen that so many times at this point with new boosters. They always tend to have some kind of hiccup, shall we say? Um, but it is worth noting here, Alex, I think we have an update. We do have a hold, it looks like, on
Oh.
the countdown clock.
No longer. So, for just a minute or so, the clock on the SpaceX website had entered a hold, and we know that at least that clock in particular, because of Kiko Donchev from SpaceX saying that it is a clock that they actually have connected to the real one. So when it enters our hold or it continues counting down and things like that, then the real one also holds or continues to count down. Now it has continued to count down, but it's now to a different T0, a different liftoff time. So it entered a brief hold and then it reset to 9:32 a.m. Eastern time, right on the dot, 00 seconds essentially. So we are a little bit more time, like we still have to wait a little bit more time, but at the very least, it's still today, it's still within the window. So there we go.
And it is worth noting that it is a 27-minute window today, so they still have time. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that-
they sort of brought it down to right before the time where the decisions made where fueling would start, where they would be locked in, and then they pushed it a bit, but they have flexibility before that point. So they've got time to play with here.
Yeah, they pretty much just went to the middle of the window because it's 27 minutes, so it's about, 13 and a half minutes, right? And that's essentially what they did. They moved it 13 minutes. No, not 13, 14, excuse me. Math.
yeah, it's fine. It's early. So we will continue to keep an eye on that, keep an eye on the weather, keep an eye on everything going on. But right now, the new T0 there, 9:32. And again, I love just the contrast, the thick storm clouds and everything over there at the port. But it seems pretty decent over the pad. But it is worth noting that there are a bunch of different weather rules and kind of areas that they have of concern, right, Max?
Yes, and primarily there is a radius both on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station side and on the Kennedy Space Center side, where if there is a lightning strike within that radius, they then go into a phase 2 lightning warning, which then dictates they cannot proceed with either fueling the rocket or the countdown if that involves propellant load on the vehicle. And they like to make that decision before they go into prop load, obviously, and other launch providers also would as well. But Falcon 9 is unique in that they load and go, and that they fuel at the latest possible moment that they can because of the super chill propellants. But at this moment, we have not heard any sort of weather warnings here, at least on the KSC side. And Pad 40 is pretty far north on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and not really in close proximity to the port. It's kind of deceiving because the Cape is a very big piece of land, both on the KSC side and on the Cape side. It is deceivingly large. So while we don't have any inclement weather in our area, and at least from what we can see with our Mark 1 eyeballs around Slick 40, obviously the cameras are showing a bit of rainfall around Port Canaveral, or in Port Canaveral, I should say, and just south of it. But that is not too uncommon. Weather here changes in minutes at times and can move around rather quickly. So hoping it stays raining in the port and not here, because that would be suboptimal for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But it is worth noting, as of right now, there are no active Phase 1 lightning watches or Phase 2 lightning warnings anywhere in the area that is monitored by the 45th Weather Squadron and Kennedy Space Center weather forecasting team. Let me thank some people here. Jerwa coming in with a lot of support this morning with a $20 super chat, just saying, hi, hello. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. Also gifting 5 Red Team memberships. That is super generous. Thank you very, very much for that. And JWJ becoming a Pad Ret member, also very much appreciated. It's that support that allows us to have all these cameras out for all these launches. So thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the payloads here. As you can see, there is that look at that cloud contrast. You can kind of see the little ring around the pad almost of those dark clouds to the south, and then the clear skies up in the corner. See, there's your postcard.
Easy. Easy.
I'm trying to be nice. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Kuiper launches themselves, because as pointed out, this is Kuiper Falcon 2, so the second Kuiper launch on Falcon. Supersonic Retro Propulsion saying, which of the contracted launch service providers, Alex, has put up the most Kuiper sats so far?
Well, right now, ULA, because they can fit 27 on Atlas. So even if Falcon 9 launched today, they will still have launched fewer of these Kuiper satellites, because you've got 27 from Atlas. So it will be Kuiper Atlas 1 and Kuiper Atlas 2. We had 2 of those, so that's 54 of them. And then here, you've got 24 on Kuiper Falcon 1, and Kuiper Falcon 2 will be carrying another 24, so that's 48. So it's still a little bit short from what Atlas launched. But yeah, right now, the most Kuiper launches, the most Kuiper satellites launched, have been with Atlas V. Now, we do expect, though, for Falcon 9 to perform perhaps another Kuiper mission in the next month or so, like in September timeframe, because ULA right now is busy with Vulcan, and it may do maybe the first Kuiper Vulcan maybe later this year. But right now, the consensus is that, based on the movements and schedules and things like that from ULA, they may not do an Atlas Kuiper mission until maybe October. That sort of time frame might be the case. We don't know, though. These things are very fluid, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, there you can see that dispenser from the first Kuiper Falcon mission. Empty dispenser, no satellites. We have not seen, at least in good detail, these satellites. There's like a grainy picture and video from like the first Atlas Kuiper mission. But other than that, we've not really seen these satellites that well. But yeah, that's I give you an extended answer as usual. You asked me, so that's what you get.
We've got the time with the slight push in the window.
Exactly. It's all good.
But yeah, we really have not seen much of these satellites. It's kind of surprising how secretive it's been, and it's assumed once again that on this flight, once payload fairings deploy, we will not see any views of the satellites as well. But I'm excited to see it fly on Vulcan. But I mean, there's still another Vulcan flight first though before this, and Kuiper has a deadline to meet too, right?
Yeah, so in order to have the allocation for the communication bands, they need to get, I forget the exact number, but they need to get a lot of satellites up, and it's looking like that will be a tight target. But like you said, speaking of like Vulcan, this coming week we have a Vulcan VC4 flight that's USSF 106. So that's currently targeting for Tuesday evening around the 8 p.m. time. And I mean, Max is over here bouncing in his seat. It's going to be an exciting launch. We love seeing new vehicles come online. Vulcan has flown 2 times now, and getting more flights here. It's great to see new vehicles. And Alex, do you remember the exact number and exact date deadline for those Kuiper sats?
The exact number, no, I know it's more than 1,600 because I know it's like double that. So the whole deadline. There you go. The whole deal with the deadline is that you need to launch half of the constellation that you have been approved for in like 5 years, right? They got approved for this in 2021, July 2021. That means by the end of July 2026, 5 years later, they should have had the half of the constellation already in orbit. However, that essentially entails more than 1,600 of them. What you said, 1,618?
Yep.
Okay, so 1,618 satellites by the end of July 2026. There's also the added. So we always talk about half of the constellation in 5 years. The full constellation needs to be deployed in 7 years. That's another rule that a lot of people don't talk about. So the other 1,618 satellites need to be launched over the next following 2 years, which is quite interesting because I don't even think they'd be able to do it in 2 years, let alone 1 year until essentially the first half Constellation deadline essentially. So we'll see what will happen, but maybe they're gonna need an extension.
Yeah, and I mean, they have plenty of rocket options to launch it. It's just those rocket options are either not, you know, going at their current pace or have not launched at all yet on customer missions, with Ariane 6 scheduled to fly some, and then, of course, New Glenn scheduled to fly a lot. And right now, not launching at this moment, you'll see, is a hold in the count. That does not mean that they are not going today. It is just a hold. So they have time left in the window, and we will see where they go from here. But it looks like we have a new T0. Alex, is that the end of the window now that I'm seeing?
No, that's just it's the clock holding.
No, it
Oh,
is
now.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
If
saw
you hit
it.
refresh, Carson, it's counting again.
Yeah, it's counting again. Right at the end of the window, 9:45 Eastern time.
Oh, they're pushing, they're trying. I'm, but yeah, and Max, weather-wise, still okay where you are over at the press site.
At least from what the Mark 1 eyeballs are telling me, yes. Still plenty of sunshine. Obviously, you can see all the clouds in the background there. That is all out over the Atlantic at the moment and is not posing any immediate threat. At least from what we can see, there may be something that SpaceX is watching, and that maybe some of that is coming in this direction, or there is something in the flight path, or there is some very high swells or just unfavorable weather in the LZ or the landing zone out in the Atlantic, which could also be something to watch for, because obviously they don't want to lose a brand new booster, especially a booster as critical as a Falcon Heavy center core on its first flight. Doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, though, to push to the end of the window already. Granted, it was only a 27-minute window, so it's not like we are going to be here for 4 or 5 hours, like we otherwise sometimes can. But not exactly confidence inspiring, but we don't exactly have a good idea of what could be primarily causing this, other than potentially the weather that you were seeing on the left-hand side of your screen, which I think is supposed to be LC-36, which is where New Glenn flies from. So not looking great from the port, but at least from here at the press side, it's looking okay, dare I say.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other weather constraints or things that we can't see and we're not aware of, but it looks fine. So we'll keep an eye on
So-
that.
It is worth noting that that system that is over the port is moving north. So there's actually a radar outage from some of the nearby ones. So the detail isn't quite there, but it is moving north from the port area over the Space Force Station. So perhaps by the time they were getting to T0 and the actual launch window opening, those were going to be of concern. So that's why they're moving to the end of the window here. But perhaps that gives it time for the system to move through and clear the area.
If that's moving north, that's coming directly at us. That doesn't feel great. Oh no, I'm watching the radar now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we're obviously going to be keeping an eye on here as they continue to count. Reminder that we've seen it kind of pause at around the same time. So at around the 42-minute mark-ish is when they begin the poll to go for prop load, if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, right? Is it 42 minutes, Alex?
For the poll, yeah, it's around that time. Obviously the final point is essentially that roughly 38 minutes or so. The whole reason for that is because at T-minus 37 minutes, that's when they vent the tanks ahead of propellant load, and then the propellant load starts at T-minus 35. So usually if they need to delay for whatever reason into the window, they try to wait until, before the end of the poll to do that. Obviously, because the poll can then say also like, okay, we are no go, right? That can also happen.
Which it seems like has been happening so far this
Yeah.
morning. But there was an
Exactly.
interesting question that I'll throw to you, Alex, from Jacob saying, why is this launch window for Kuiper launches shorter than the ones for Starlink launches?
Well, it probably is down to whatever Kuiper, whatever Amazon wants to put in, like the way that they want to put it in orbit. I cannot tell you exactly because, satellite management is probably a very complicated thing and each company does it their own way, right? So yeah, Starlink missions, they do have a 4-hour window. That being said, they don't launch at any point in the window. They have now these sub windows, which seem to be sort of like their optimal time within the window that they can launch, right? Optimal for what? I have no idea. But it's sort of when they want to launch within the window, they have these different opportunities. It's not like they have an available opportunity every single second of that 4-hour window, right? And so that's very common when you have long windows like that. You normally don't have from a flight software perspective, it will be too many data points if you had one launch opportunity every single second. I mean, just 1 hour, it's 3,600 seconds, right? That would be 3,600 different trajectories that you will need to load on the rocket and things like that. And while software and everything is super, super good, having to go through all of that and making sure that it's the optimal one and blah, blah, blah. Like normally launch operators, if you have a long window, you either, instead of targeting like every second, you may be targeting every minute, for example. It's a lot easier because it's 60 fewer times, I guess, right? Or you target like optimal points in that window. And that's what it seems that they do for Starlink. Again, having every now and then this sort of sub window, this partition of the big window into smaller ones. And that's sort of probably how they go around that. Why Kuiper does only 27 minutes? I have no idea. Why was it 25 the other day? Yesterday, it was supposed to have been a 25-minute window. And then on Thursday was again 27 minutes. So I have no idea, but it probably is down to something like that. And eventually, as we always say, blame orbital mechanics. We had a joke, I think it was on the Crew 11 mission, where it was like, you can pinpoint any of these decisions usually to orbital mechanics, because they probably want to have it in a certain orbital plane. Maybe they want to spread out the satellites in a certain way, and so they only have this amount of time in this window. Like it's just 27 minutes one day, and then another day is 25, and whatever. But it's probably down to that. We don't know exactly though. We can just only speculate.
Also interesting of note in terms of payload deployment, we're used to seeing with SpaceX basically one maneuver and all the satellites spread their way out, as opposed to Kuiper, which on Falcon 9 has a 7.5-minute deployment sequence that it goes through. So it's not the same kind of just, oh yeah, basically release the tension and off they go.
Yeah. They are also deployed higher than the Starlinks, as we were mentioning, right? The Starlinks, once deployed, they take a while to get to a higher orbit. Sometimes they take like a 4 or 5 month period, essentially, as they get checked out at different altitudes and whatnot. But yeah.
Exactly. ResistoJet asking, is there a record for longest time a rocket has stood on the pad due to weather, etc., before being launched? Feels like Artemis jumps out at me.
Artemis 1.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think if there's any shuttle missions that... I mean, there were shuttle missions that were out there for months, but they also had a rotating service structure to protect them. Artemis was just there. I don't have an exact number on that one, but Max, it feels like it was Artemis. That was out there for a while.
It was out there for a while, and it also ended up rolling out 4 separate times out of High Bay 3 in the vehicle assembly building here at KSC. I don't have an exact time frame of how long it was out there, but It was supposed to launch in August of 2022, and it didn't end up launching until November, like mid-November of 2022. So obviously it wasn't out there for that entire time, but it was outside for quite a bit. And actually, the mobile launcher was out at the pad for about a year afterwards, getting repairs and making sure that teams on the ground knew what to do, what to do with it in High Bay 3 before it was made ready to receive the solid rocket boosters and core stage, and of course the Orion spacecraft for Artemis 2. So the ML, I think, probably has the record for being out there in terms of a mobile structure being out at a launch pad, but the actual SLS rocket for Artemis 1, I think, may take the cake on that one.
I'm so sad. I'm really, really sad, Max, that you just said that about the mobile launcher.
Why?
Because I'm sure the Falcon 9 transporter at Slick 40 has the record for that.
I mean, like, but it goes back and forth.
It's been out there
though.
for a while.
But it goes
Yeah,
back
but
and forth, and it has stuff to do.
But it only stays on the hangar for rocket integration, which, to be fair, lately it takes like hours. So
yeah, but to be fair, it's made to do that. Like, it's not like it's out there just because they had nothing else to do with it. Like, obviously they have their own reasons to keep it there.
Okay, well,
potato.
we'll
Tomato,
have a
tomato.
talk later.
I'm on Team Max with this one. That one stayed out there under everything. It didn't have to roll back until it rolled back the rocket again and again and again. Anyway, and yeah, it did deal with a hurricane out there too.
Ooh, the transporter director has done the same.
Well, you say that assuming it wasn't rolled back into the hangar to avoid any of the weather.
Well, the one at 39A, we know that it wasn't because we saw it. It was out there. At least the one at 39A. I don't know about the one at Sleep 40, but the one at 39A was definitely out there when it happened.
Yeah, put some salt and pepper on it, like on your salad, and we'll be fine. It was a whole debate this morning, folks, about salad. You don't want to know.
It's what these late nights and early mornings do to us, folks.
Well, while we're in that kind of mood now, Westy the Third coming in with the 20 curly L's here, saying, "It's been a while. Remind me again, what are the 4 towers for? Wrong answers only. Much love to all the NSF family. # Max and D fan club."
Trampoline.
Okay. Alex, wrong answers only.
I always say the same. They are coolness attractors or something like that. I don't know.
I was trying to come up with a different one. Let's see. I'm gonna go with barbecue skewers for
Barbecue
extra large
skewers.
meats.
Barbecue. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with something different. It's like, do you want kebabs? There you go. You got a kebab. Cooked by lightning.
It is possible.
Yeah, I saw someone on a YouTube video try it. I'm trying to remember who that was. But anyway. Let's see. Turtle Sanctuary saying, if you take the M in mild and turn it upside down, that's wild. Just like this stream. Oh, yes. Talking about those 4 towers, what are they for? They are for wearing on t-shirts at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We have that 4 tower shirt, which is my absolute favorite. The fact that it has a pun on it and the lightning in Florida. Yeah, so definitely check that out. It's one of my favorite shirts I own. They're talking about us again. Shocking.
See, I can never know if you're reading a pun or if you're just being you. And in that case, you were just reading the shirt, and I just didn't realize it.
I'll take that as a compliment. And then a name we see out at the Cape here, Michael Seeley coming in with a $20 super chat saying, "You all equals cool, but I think we can agree the photographers equal the coolest." He's a fellow photographer.
No, Mike, you are the man. You equals the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who's cooler, Jack or Max? We'll go with Mike Seeley.
I second
Sorry,
that.
Max. Anyway, about 42 minutes to go here. Hopefully, we'll get word on them proceeding with tanking. Dee, can you kind of walk us through the timeline of what we're expecting at least now, assuming all continues?
Absolutely. So around the 38-minute mark, that is when the launch director should verify the go for propellant load. And then just a few minutes later, at 35 minutes to launch, that's when they actually will start that propellant loading. So they'll start with the RP1 for both the first and second stage, as well as the liquid oxygen for the first stage only. That'll continue for a while until we get to around the T minus 20-minute mark when we will see the famous 20-minute vent. That is prepping sort of the infrastructure, the plumbing, everything to start the liquid oxygen loading on the second stage to cool everything down. At that point, it's a lot closer to launch. At 16 minutes, that's when they actually start that liquid oxygen loading for the second stage. And things progress rapidly once you get into the last few minutes of launch, including the engine sequence start at 3 seconds to liftoff, and then, of course, liftoff itself.
And hopefully that will be happening in about 40 minutes. Fingers crossed, weather crossed, everything crossed, I guess. Let's see. Here's one from David Prado. Alex, with all the stat sheets and everything, has there been a reduction in launches from 39A? It seems like Slick 40 has had most launches in the past few months.
Nope, it's actually had more launches so far at this time of the year than last year. Sort of around the same time of the year. So yes, it is used less than Slick 40. But compared to last year, it's actually increased the cadence. It's got more launches so far. So yeah, I would in fact expect to see even more launches this year. Like last year, it did 26 by the end of the year of 2024. Right now, it's already done 17, so it only needs 9 more launches, and it's already beating, or at least achieving the same number of launches from 39A than last year. And I certainly expect more than 9 launches remaining for that pad. For what remains of the year. I think like just this month alone, there's at least another one with the USSF-36 mission and the X-37B spaceplane. So that's like another 8 launches for, September, October, November, December, essentially an average of two launches per month. They can do that, and even more than that from just 39A. It's just not as used because it's a launch pad that you can launch Dragon from. You can do Falcon Heavy. There's also Starship construction as well. And so you normally, even though it might not make too much sense from a straightaway sort of point of view, when you look at it carefully, you want a pad that launches sort of the scraps, if you will. I know it's a very bad way of talking about it, but you want a workhorse launch pad like Slick 40 that just keeps churning all of those launches and just keeps doing record turnarounds. And then all of the other launches that need a lot of preparation, that need, pad changes and things like that, then you launch those from 39A and you can not worry about those. And yes, that means 39A will have a lower cadence, but compared to last year, it's still a much higher cadence than last year. So it's not like they have slowed down at all. It's just, it's less used than Slick 40, but that's been a thing since pretty much forever that they've been using both pads. So yeah.
So you're saying at least 9 times?
Yeah, 9 more times and they get there. But it's true.
9 times.
That's one of the things that allows them to be able to launch that often, because again, you can use the one pad that we're seeing here to do that rapid cadence, and then all of the more sort of picky missions, the ones that need more care and more work, like crew missions, for example, they can go from 39A. And when you have 2 missions that are very picky and have lots of care, then you can also have them from Sleek 40, which happened, for example, with Crew 9 last year, which was a crew mission. Normally those go from 39A, but now that they have the crew access arm and tower at Pad 40, they can do those from there as well. And in that case, they had a Falcon Heavy with an interplanetary mission at 39A. 39A is the only one that can launch Falcon Heavy, so the crew mission had to go from 40. And so in that case, there was also a long stand down and everything to configure the pad and all that. But, once every X number of months, it's not the end of the world for SpaceX and their cadence at Sleek 40.
Right, and we even have the next ISS resupply mission, CRS-33, set to launch currently from Pad 40 as well.
Yep.
So those have tended to launch from 39A in recent times.
Yep, and now what they're doing is because they have the X-37B launch, apparently for some reason they want to launch that from 39A, then the CRS mission will be going from Sleek 40.
Yeah, it's the X-37B is very secretive. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but if we found out, they would have to. Yeah, exactly. You know the phrase. If I told you, I'd have to anyway. Bideford with a $50 super chat. Hi, Bideford, you're super generous. Thank you. Saying, here's to SpaceX getting this beauty off the ground today with good weather, and so I can see it as I'm driving to show a home to a client. Ooh. Well, hopefully the weather holds. You can see there the clouds looking actually pretty nice at the moment. So fingers crossed for that. And Viper, thank you, as always, for the generous support. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Jasper K, as we're already arguing semantics about things here. Max, will this be the first successful landing of a Falcon Heavy Center Core?
Technically no either way, because they landed what was it? Oh gosh, what was Falcon Heavy second mission again?
STP-2, was it?
That was the third one.
Arabsat 6A.
Arabsat 6A. They landed Arabsat 6A's at Center Core, and then unfortunately it tipped over at sea and they lost it, as we've seen unfortunately too many times over the last couple of years as well. But either way, no. But it will be the first as a Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy converted to Falcon 9 single stick configuration Falcon Heavy Center Core, as much of a mouthful as that is.
Yeah, this is also the first one that actually will attempt that at all, so that's part of it. At this point now, we are under the 35-minute mark. The clock continuing to count, which we will keep an eye out on the rocket now because we should hopefully be getting into propellant load. It might be a little difficult to see, though, with this being a new booster. Normally, the soot kind of helps make the frost a little more visible on this, so we'll see. We'll have to look a little extra close. Chat, keep an eye out on Frost Watch with us as well.
Yeah, honestly, though, Sawyer, given how humid it is, we may be seeing the vapor coming off of one side of the tank or not a lot easier. I mean, it is pretty backlit as well. That is why Falcon 9 is kind of dark at the moment on screen. The sun is pretty well behind it. But I think vapor we should see coming off the tank should be pretty visible, even though it is kind of a silhouette at the moment. But the frost itself may be tricky to see, but we should be finding that out hopefully in just a couple of minutes, whether or not the count is going to proceed or not.
Yeah, I was gonna say pretty much that even though it's white and yes, the frost will essentially be sort of like a chameleon, I guess. It will just blend with the white of the booster and all that. There's still the vapors, right? And when it's humid like today, they're probably going to be rather visible as soon as that liquid oxygen starts touching the walls of the tank. We should be in under a minute from now. So if they have gone into propellant load, which we believe they have, because the SpaceX clock is still running, so we'll have to wait and see.
We will wait and see with bated breath. As we continue to look at the booster, there's also a question here from ResistoJet about the fairings. Alex, I'll throw that one to you. Are the fairings on this Falcon 9 new, like the booster, or have they flown before?
Oh, they are absolutely not new. So This one's we're seeing here some of the stats for today, and then you can see at the bottom the fairing halves. So it's serial number 220, flying for a 5th time. That is the one that is closest to the Stromberg. It's the passive half, and then the other one is serial number 155, launching on its 28th flight, and it is the other half, the one that is sort of facing away from the Stromberg, the active side. The whole reason why they're called passive and active is because one of them has the pusher system, the pressurization system, and the pushers and everything to do the separation of the two halves. That is the one that is sort of facing away from the Stromberg, and that is the active fairing half. The one that is passive does not have that hardware, and because it is also next to the Stromberg, it also has a quick disconnect for air conditioning and things like that for the satellites on board. So yeah, 28 on one half and 5 on the other. That will be 33 launches between both, once this mission is complete, of course.
Once it's complete, which we are, it looks like starting to see some vapor forming on the rocket. Max, with the Mark II eyeball, Mark 1 eyeballs, I guess Mark 2 as well. You're seeing frost out there?
Yeah, unfortunately, the Mark IIs have not come out yet, but I'll let you know whenever they do. But yeah, it does look like we are seeing a bit of frost now on the bottom of Falcon 9's liquid oxygen tank, which is a very good sign, at least in terms of the countdown. There is still some rain incoming to us here at the press site and probably the launch pad as well. So we are keeping an eye on that. We are always in flux here in terms of how things go, especially with the weather at this time of year. But at the moment, SpaceX is at least confident in getting or trying to get Falcon 9 off the ground in just about a half hour.
That is what we are hoping for. But this is at least a good sign. Despite all the heat haze, it looks like we're starting to get some fueling here. Psychove coming in with, this is an interesting question. How will the Kuiper launches on Ariane 6 be designated as KA is taken by Atlas? I don't think any of us know, do we? We'll have to see what they end up going with. Unless they just call it K6.
I've got the joke that it's probably going to be KG because that's kilogram and it's a metric rocket. Anyways.
Oh.
I know it doesn't make sense, the G, right? But I just had that thought for a while.
Well, along those lines, I'm going to throw this one to you, D. There's a couple vehicles that it's scheduled to launch on. So, I mean, how many more launches are we going to see, do you think? And will this actually rival Starlink?
Well, Starlink's been launching for quite a while now, so until it'll be a while until it will have a chance at rivaling Starlink. But yeah, like you said, everything from Vulcan, Atlas, Falcon, New Glenn, Ariane 6, like they sort of took the spitball approach of launch on everything as much as possible, which that certainly makes sense. Unlike Starlink, which is closely tied with SpaceX, like Amazon itself doesn't have a rocket that they can just use, so they might as well go with everything, see what works. Like now, it's worth noting actually the way in which Kuiper started to launch on Falcon is a bit interesting, and we're not necessarily expecting many of these Kuiper Falcon missions because it was through Amazon's investors that they were like, hold on, why aren't we launching on Falcon 9, the most launched rocket, when it's regularly launching, improving itself? And why are we going with other options that are potentially more expensive or delayed or a variety of things? So Amazon does have, of course, that close relationship with like Blue Origin through Jeff Bezos, but they are just launching with whatever rockets they can to get a ride to space.
Yeah, and that's another misconception I think that people have here, because I saw a question earlier on talking about Blue Origin buying these launches. This is not necessarily Amazon per se, but it is the Kuiper Corporation, kind of like how SpaceX has it with Starlinks. Hopefully that I'm making sense with that. What's the word? Subsidiary. That's the word I'm thinking of. Alex, am I saying that clearly?
Yeah, it's just like Starlink. Starlink is technically so. SpaceX is Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, and then in the case of Starlink, the brand Starlink is under the company called Space Exploration Technologies Holdings, and so it's like it's a different sort of company technically within SpaceX itself. So the same thing is happening with Amazon, where you have Kuiper is this sort of separate entity within the bigger company. So yeah, it's a subsidiary of Amazon. There's also a lot of people always saying, "Oh, New Glenn is Amazon's rocket," right? Because, for example, Dee mentioned that Amazon does not have its own rocket, but you go on the internet and you may see some folks, saying that because New Glenn is from Blue Origin, and Blue Origin is also owned by Jeff Bezos, and Amazon is also owned by Jeff Bezos. So therefore, it's the Amazon rocket, right? That is, quite far from the truth. If anything, you could say that it's probably the other way around. But anyways, the whole deal with this is that Amazon just wants to have as more chances as they can to be able to launch all of this. And so that's why they had multiple different rockets, right, attached to this. Falcon 9, SpaceX, they just don't want to be depending on any other people, right? You've seen this with pretty much everything, including like making their own engines instead of, going to other companies asking for engines, or making their own rockets instead of having some other company making the tanks and then they put everything together and things like that. Like, that's their whole thing. And so the whole reason why Starlink is not launched on other rockets is pretty much because that way SpaceX can just control these things on their own. And so, yeah, like, even though you might, some people might think, New Glenn is an Amazon rocket. It's not. It's a Blue Origin rocket.
Yeah, I guess they're just so closely associated, and when we see pictures of the fairing rolling out for this, and we see it rolling out in a building that says Amazon on it, it can be confusing. Let's see here. John, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Very much appreciate it. A couple of people asking about some other vehicles, so I want to take some of those questions here real quick. First asking, will we be covering the Crew 10 splashdown? We will not. We typically only cover events where we have cameras out at them, so not for this particular one. We did the undocking last night with because we had the cameras from Sen, who's our ISS camera partner. And then Misty asking, oh boy, this is a dangerous topic, but Max, I'll throw it to you as a thought experiment here. Will Dream Chaser ever be launched?
Will it ever be launched? Absolutely. Just a matter of when. We were all hoping it was going to be end of last year, and then we were all really looking forward to it flying this year, and even that's a big question mark at the moment. But it will fly. It's just Dream Chaser and Sierra Space need to be fully ready, because Dream Chaser required a lot of investment, and they need to get it right. So will it fly? Yes, just a question of when.
Yeah, when I was at the Crew 11 post-launch press conference, I was asking them about the plans for maybe finally seeing it actually fly to the ISS, because it does have an ISS cargo resupply contract as part of the third round of contractors, I believe it was. And they basically said they're working on it, and they're going to support their progress. So hopefully we see it soon. I cannot wait to see something land back at the shuttle landing facility that isn't a super secretive spy plane. Right now, the only vehicle from space that lands on it is the X-37B, but they really don't say, hey, it's going to be coming down. You can come watch it with us or anything like that. Here's one from Brian. Do you think that this booster could be used for something like the Griffin mission, then land and be reused in single stick and or back to Falcon Heavy configuration? Alex?
Yeah, I mean that's one of those missions that they mentioned that it's in that sweet spot where you probably wouldn't like a Falcon 9 expendable will probably not be able to launch it, but a Falcon Heavy with RTLS, the side boosters coming back at the Cape, and then the center core landing on a drone ship will be able to do that. So you could recover all 3 boosters and still launch it to the moon. And so maybe this booster is going to be the center core for that mission. No idea. We'll figure it out whenever we get there. But that's also another one of those missions, like Dream Chaser, that's being delayed a bit. It was supposed to happen at the end of last year, then it delayed a bit more because of Peregrine and everything, and then, issues that you encounter when you're developing a new lunar lander, I guess, right? But yeah, I would not be surprised if it delays into next year.
But then do you think they would maybe try and reuse it? As the
Yeah,
question
if
was
they
asked.
if they land it, absolutely, yeah, they may just do that. Why not? Yeah, let's see more reused center cores.
Any reused center cores at this point, yeah, which hopefully we will see with this one. As a reminder, this is, as what did Ryan Caton put it as, a Falcon Heavy single stick configuration?
Yeah. I don't agree with that.
No?
Yeah, because every single Falcon 9, it's already a single stick. And I had yesterday, no, not yesterday, the other way, the other day on Thursday, I had this whole rant about it. Any Falcon 9 booster can be turned into a side booster for Falcon Heavy, which means any Falcon 9, it's already a single stick, a single stick Falcon Heavy. So one core variant or whatever, whatever he called it. But yeah.
Yeah, single core variant Falcon Heavy, which, I mean, yeah. But for the longest time, it was, side cores could fly as Falcon 9s, but center cores couldn't. But right now, this Falcon 9 center core is set to fly in 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which means it is time for the best vent. And there it is, right on time. D, why do we see the best vent?
So this is sort of a purge and cool down of the lines in order to prepare for that second stage liquid oxygen loading. We talk about it with engines, how you do a cool down sequence. You don't want to go from something that's in the 80, 90 degree temperature of the air down to the freezing cryogenic temperatures of liquid oxygen in a snap, because then the things might snap. So this is a purge of the lines, a cool down of the lines, and preparation to begin that loading, which will happen at the T-minus 16-minute mark.
And that is what we like to see. That means they are continuing with the propellant load. And a reminder, once they... Oh, holy rain bands there.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Hopefully
Yeah.
that's in the water.
It is. It is, but it looks like all of that is beginning to come this way, unfortunately. And it looks like we may be getting wet here in just a few minutes here at the press side, but we are keeping our eyes open and our heads on a swivel.
It looks so eerie with the pad right there. But again, distances can be deceiving. And of course, it's a little harder to tell with the main weather radar dish out there kind of not working properly, but we'll see. In about 18 and a half minutes, hopefully we will see the launch of 24 Kuiper internet satellites on the Kuiper Falcon 2 mission. Again, these are somewhat they are competitors, excuse me, to Starlinks, but slightly different. This constellation is set to hopefully be in operation shortly. They need to have over 1,600 satellites in operation, though, by mid next year to be able to meet a deadline to be able to use the bandwidths for it. Boy, my brain just stopped working halfway through that sentence. Hopefully that made sense today. 18 minutes to go here. Of course, this one, we were hinting at it, but is a very unique booster in that this is a Falcon Heavy center core that is set to now be used as a Falcon 9 single stick for the time being, and this is a first time for that. Also, someone pointing out in chat, the John Edwards calling this a single stick configuration. Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Argue with John Edwards?
it is. He says, it is in fact a Falcon Heavy center core that will fly in a single stick configuration a handful of times before being reconfigured and flying as a Falcon Heavy. That is true. Just like a Falcon Heavy side core can also fly in a single stick configuration instead of, being attached to a Falcon Heavy center core.
You are
You know
standing
the
your
point that I'm
ground on this
making,
one.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just meaning that it's flying on Falcon 9 configuration. That's all.
Oh boy. Someone. Do I dare even joke? Can they static fire in the rain? Well, actually,
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah.
yeah. Oh, pause! My God.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Oh my God. That was you.
No, that was you just now.
No.
You know.
No.
No, you.
And if you don't know, what have you been missing?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair point.
Probably
Rip
the
Kit 36.
fastest way to get me out of bed.
Also, fastest way to get the payload Pez dispenser door open.
It opened in the blink of an eye.
Yep, that's true. If only there was payloads on board, they would have deployed as well. Anyway,
Right into the Rio.
getting back to actual questions here. This is more of a structural question, so Alex, I'm going to throw this one to you. Heliosphere Physics and Spaceflight asking, as the center core Falcons are structurally strengthened compared to regular Falcon 9 boosters, does it have additional mass and as a result less payload to orbit?
Yeah, it does have a bit of payload performance penalty, I guess. But you got to remember that the way that this works is that because the Falcon 9 first stages earlier, right? It doesn't go into orbit, which means all of the mass that you add to it, it's not going to be, a one-to-one relationship to how much mass you're losing in terms of performance to orbit. It does become one-to-one on the second stage because the second stage obviously goes into orbit. So whatever kilogram or pound or whatever unit of mass that you use, you add to that second stage, then that's sort of the penalty that you get in terms of payload to orbit. But on the first stage, the ratio is actually closer to like 1 to 10. So if you add 10 kilograms or 10 pounds or whatever, you only lose 1 kilogram or 1 pound of payload to orbit. So you could add 1 ton of dry mass to the first stage, and you will still only lose about 100 kilograms or so, which is not a lot, to be fair, compared to what Falcon 9 can do. I'm pretty sure that the reinforcements only add a couple of tons, maybe 3 at maximum. So that is probably closer to like 300, 400 kilograms maybe, which is a bit more considerable, to be fair. But still, it's not that huge. They can take that. It's plenty. This is not even close to the maximum performance that they need for Falcon 9. I think it's under 16,000 kilograms. So, and they've launched more than 17,000 kilograms. Yeah, I'm looking here. It will be 13,700 kilograms for these 24 Kuiper satellites. So yeah, definitely well under the maximum performance.
So to answer Jeremy B's question then, so no hashtag stubby nozzle?
No, I
somebody
wouldn't
say
expect
stubby?
that.
Yes, Jeremy mentioned it in chat. No stubby nozzle on this one. Again, needing all of that extra performance, especially for these satellite missions where they want to try and pack as many in as possible.
So,
Go
from
ahead,
the
Pete.
field's perspective, sorry, I just wanted to hop in here because we have been keeping a very close eye on the clouds and on the radar, and we're seeing lots of clouds sort of develop around us. But looking at the radar, I've been seeing one particularly bad one offshore, but from my measurements, that's like right around the 10-mile mark, maybe just outside the 10-mile mark. it's very, very close to the sort of threshold there. And so there's still the cumulus cloud rule beyond that, but we're keeping an eye, like stuff's sort of right on the line weather-wise for this. Maybe it'll clear up, maybe it'll find that break through the clouds, but I know Max and I are just repeatedly refreshing, keeping close eyes on all the weather, and trying to be ready in the event that rain suddenly starts overhead.
As has so commonly been the theme for the past 3 to 4 days.
Yeah, the official launch forecast, by the way, was 40% favorable, with concerns being the cumulus cloud rule, anvil cloud rule, and the lightning rule. Which brings me to a question that I saw in chat asking, which is more of a concern, rain or wind? I guess, Max, it's kind of both.
Can you, what was that, Sawyer? Sorry, I missed it.
It was, which is more of a concern, rain or wind? And I guess they're both different concerns that are still pretty valid.
I mean, I think in the grander scheme of things, wind is a more prominent and more commonly known issue to track, and is obviously a lot more common to have around a T0 than rain is. They can launch in the rain if they really have to, so long as it, I believe, isn't obstructing any of their engineering camera views or isn't interfering with the rocket's telemetry or communications with ground systems. So rain, not so much an issue, but Falcon 9 is one of the more vulnerable rockets when it comes to winds, because obviously it needs to not only launch through the atmosphere, it needs to come back through it to land on either a drone ship or on the LZ, or like LZ1, LZ2, or and hopefully soon to be LZ40 or LZ39A. So I would say wind is a more prominent concern, but rain certainly can be. But I think more often than not, rain is a byproduct of a system that is already giving off warnings for lightning and also wind as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the key thing, is that lightning risk of being able to fly through a cloud and create your own lightning against a rocket, which can happen and has happened. So that's always a concern. And Falcon 9 is very tall and very skinny. While it would probably do well on Tinder, it does not do great with wind shear. So, let me thank some people here. John, Mr. Coffee here, saying the J&J coffee shop is open. I will take a bagel that is not whatever Jack calls a bagel, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. We are coming up now on under 10 minutes to go here. D, what are we expecting in these final parts of the count now?
Yeah, so we have a number of things we are expecting to see as they get closer and closer to the launch here. Of course, if we can bring that timeline up once again. There will be the engine chill down around the 8-minute mark as they get closer and closer.
Carson, we got you. There we go.
So we are about a minute and a half away from the start of engine chill here. And then in about 5 minutes, that'll be the completion of stage 1 LOX load. And then a bit later, that's when we will see the stage 2 LOX load actually complete. Around the 90-second mark is the sort of transition to internal power, Falcon 9 and startup. Around the 1 minute mark, and the final go for launch at less than a minute to launch.
There we go. So we'll keep an eye out for that engine chill in about a minute. And that engine chill, Alex, is pretty important.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna have some serious problems there.
Yeah, what? You don't want engines cracking or anything from the shock and the temperature changes and all of that?
Exactly. That will be a very bad day for your engines or anything in general that needs to have any. Ooh, nice. A chauffeur of gravitas out there in the ocean. But yeah, the whole deal with that is just like the T-minus 20-minute vent, right? You have cold fluids flowing through it. You don't want to shock that with that fluid and things like that. So yeah.
Yep, Max D, I know you guys need to get everything set up with your cameras, and we will talk to you in just a little bit.
Indeed. Thank you very much, everybody. And we will see you on the either side, either of launch or of the dreaded S word.
Well, let's hope we get a launch, and hats off to you guys. Thank you, Alex. Hats off to the field team here, and in particular, the new trucker hats that we have at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Awesome new designs. These just released a couple days ago, or within the last 24 hours, essentially. We now have trucker hats. So if you like the trucker cap style with the wider brims and all of that, bunch of different designs. There's the NSF logo. We've got Falcon Heavy ones, which again, technically kind of applies to this one, given that it is a Falcon Heavy center core flying as a single-stick Falcon 9. So very appropriate for today. Of course, all of the live logos, your Texas Tank Watchers, all available now at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, along with our awesome summer collection and our new lighter weight shirts as well for the summer heat. So that's shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Now, at this point, those clouds look a little eerie, but so far everything is proceeding up to this point with about 6 minutes to go now until launch. And a reminder for those who are just kind of joining as we discuss that Falcon Heavy center core thing, this is a very unique booster in B1091. Right, Alex?
Yeah, it is a Falcon Heavy center core dressed in Falcon 9 booster. So it's got the tank section is the one for a Falcon Heavy center core, but it's got the octaweb and the interstage for a Falcon 9. So it's going to be flying as a Falcon 9 booster, and this is its first launch for that. We expect that it's going to be flying in this configuration for a little bit, few flights essentially, and then it'll be sort of converted into a Falcon Heavy center core for a future mission on Falcon Heavy.
Yep. So if you want to see it fly, though, and you are outside and want to try and take a look, this is going into a northeastern trajectory, kind of similar to what we're used to seeing for Starlink, but slightly different. This one will be 51.9 degree inclination, so it will ride its way up the east coast. So if you are along the east coast, might as well head outside and try and take a look if you have clear skies. And at this point, they're getting ready for strong back retract. You'll be able to see kind of the clamps unfold from underneath the payload fairings there. And then it will lean back 1.8 degrees, and then we'll completely throw back before launch itself, or right around
Nice view.
0.
I love this view from the crew access tower.
Because you could see all the Starship work going on, too.
What Starship work? This is like 40.
I'm sorry, I'm used to seeing it from 39A. You mentioned crew tower, my mind goes to 39A.
But it's the same view, right? So that's why you said that. As I get
exactly
you.
Why. I'm so used to 39A. We just with all crew 11. Anyway,
but I like it anyways because you can see the rocket up and close, so that's always nice.
Exactly, in the tank farm there, and these are previously flown fairing halves. We do know that.
Yeah, the one on the left, if I'm not mistaken, the one on the left has flown already 27 times. It'll be its 28th flight. And the one on the right is flying for the 5th time on this flight.
Yeah, the active and the passive fairing halves. The one that pushes and the one that gets pushed as they separate away. Something we probably will not see on this stream because Amazon is quite secretive about seeing their satellites. So usually at the customer request, they do not show anything from inside the fairings once they deploy.
Yep.
Coming up now on 3 minutes to go. What is the timeline left, Alex, for wrapping up propellant loads here?
Yeah, so they should be wrapping up liquid oxygen load on the first stage, roughly at this time. It looks like it's raining now at the pad. I just saw a few droplets on that other camera. T-minus 3 minutes, they have the liquid oxygen load completion on the first stage. I just heard a call out for that, by the way. So that's complete. The second stage will be wrapping up in a few seconds from now, usually at T-minus 2 minutes to launch. We'll have the Stromback vent coming back as they clear out all of the lines ahead of liftoff. And then at T-minus 1 minute, they'll go into startup. That is when the onboard computers take over control of the countdown, from the ground computers, essentially. So hopefully we'll get a go for launch from the launch director at T-minus 45 seconds.
That is what we're going to hope for here. And again, once all of the propellants are fully loaded in, you'll be able to see it as they do a final purge of the lines on the Strongback with a vent very similar to that one that
There it
we
is.
see. Yep, at the 20-minute, 20-second mark, but this one's slightly different. So with that means we have a fully fueled Falcon 9 out on the launch pad there. So next up, as Alex, you were pointing out, we will hopefully have the onboard computers take control of the count at T-minus 1 minute. That is known as Falcon 9 entering startup. That is also when the tanks will pressurize up to flight levels. And then at T-minus 45 seconds, hopefully we get that go for launch. And there we go. Gas closeout's done. So we should be seeing all of that clear out. And it is now raining
Wow.
at 40.
Look at that.
This is going to be interesting. We'll see if once Falcon 9 enters startup, if they proceed from here. So 1 minute to go. Falcon 9 entering startup. Again, our cameras are slightly ahead of SpaceX's. There's the latency there, so that's why their clock and our clock are usually off by a couple seconds. And this is where they would give the go for launch.
At T-minus 1 minute, Falcon 9 is in startup.
$30 seconds to go.
Come on, launch director.
Hold.
And there it
Power
is.
is running.
There's the holds. Yeah, the flight through precipitation rule, I think, coming into play here, as it is raining at Slick 40.
I think I just heard Max.
All right, team, that was a scrub due to weather. Let's go ahead and proceed into the non-crewed scrub section of Procedure 1.160 and step into offloads.
Also, I just noticed that on their live streams, they have the little pause symbol next to the clock. And of course, there comes the sun. And yes, as noting, this was the end of the window as well. Once they begin fueling, they're committed to a T0 anyway. But yeah, this was the last chance they had in the window regardless. So with that, that is our least favorite word here. Now we'll say it. That is a scrub. What a shame. But look at how much the rain picked up right at T0. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Max and D hopefully staying dry out there.
Really, the last few minutes, like I talked about, the close out of propellant on the first stage and whatnot. And then I said, I'm seeing some drops on the camera. And look at that. That's from the press site.
Yeah. Max
Wow.
and D right now working to get everything under cover, cameras protected and out of the rain. Wow. Look at that sheet of rain right at the pad now. That is so ominous, but that is the result of the scrub today. What's also the result of the scrub today is the return of the scrub merch. This mission's going to give you a lot of chances, it seems like, to get the scrub exclusive merch that only happens when we are unable to have a launch, but we have the stream running. That's why we have the... I watched the entire stream and all I got was a Falcon 9 Scrub Edition. And then, of course, the Eat, Sleep, Scrub, Repeat, which very accurate minus the actual sleep portion, I think, for all of us here now with these early morning ones. So that is available for a very limited time. You can see there, we've got the banner going. That is only 6 hours to grab the shirt. So if you want to grab it now, or else it is gone until the next scrub, which hasn't been many of them lately. So not a lot of chances to grab them. Again, that's shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Hate to point it out that it is there, but it is the scrub merge meeting. We did have a scrub today. Look at the rain, my goodness. What are we looking at for future launch opportunities, Alex?
Well, I assume that they're gonna have another one tomorrow. Of course, that'll depend on payload and vehicle readiness, I guess, and also it'll depend on whatever condition the weather is in tomorrow. If it is just as bad as, look at that. If it is as bad as today, then it probably will not go. I think tomorrow the window opens a little bit earlier. If I'm not mistaken, it should be about 20 minutes earlier. Yeah, it doesn't say yet on the website, but it'll reflect that soon, I guess. You can find that out on next spaceflight. As soon as we get a new T0, we'll update the website for that as well. So there you go.
Exactly. So right now, you can see the just torrential downpour, and it is worth noting, thank you to Julia in the back channel pointing out that the Space Coast is in a flood advisory for this entire weekend here. So the weather can be quite iffy. The official forecast is 50% favorable for an attempt tomorrow from the 45th Weather Squadron. So we will see the main concerns being the exact same ones as today. The cumulus cloud rule, the anvil cloud rules, and the lightning rule. Our team out in the field, I'm gonna guess you guys are working on cleaning up the cameras, so let you guys do that.
Well, they've got the water now to clean the cameras. Anyways.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, yeah, this has been a wild one. These Kuiper satellites do not want to go. But
hey, if they keep delaying, they might avoid all of these rains.
I mean, yeah, that is true.
Because it goes back.
Exactly. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with that. But already the scrub shirts coming in. Mark saying, because scrub happens, I already have both shirts, may as well complete the collection, getting the poster version as well. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. In terms of when they go for the next attempts and everything going on with it, of course, you can also, in addition to Next Spaceflight, follow NSF on all of our socials, X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, all of your favorite ones there. We are on them. And of course, we'll keep you updated on them as we learn more about launch dates, times, and notifications for when we go live. Meantime, Alex, thank you for joining me on commentary today.
It's been a pleasure as usual, and hopefully, third time's the charm, I guess. We'll see.
I guess. And a huge shout out to the team in the fields who are now out in the rain. Max Evans out in the field. And then DY's also out in the field. Thank you to both of you for rolling out again, getting the gear out just to get rained on at the last minute. And of course, a thank you to Carson for producing the stream today, pushing the buttons, and pulling all of the levers. Don't forget, we also have the Crew 10 splashdown coming up. We will not be streaming that, but you can bet there will be posts on the socials when that does happen. And there is the team out in the weather. Again, it's crazy in Florida where you can see the sun and torrential downpours all at the same time like that. Thank you to both of you for that. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I've been your host for today's launch attempt. We will see you back here for the next one.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight comes IFT off. Bring in SPD off. Décollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.